From the dawn of the British Raj to the twilight of colonial rule, gold coins have told the story of an empire. These are not merely pieces of metal, but rather miniature chronicles, each one bearing the weight of history, conflict, and immense cultural change. They whisper tales of merchants and monarchs, of power asserted, and of independence won. In this journey, we will uncover the complete, untold history of British India's most iconic gold coins, exploring the intricate details and the grand narratives they represent. I believe these stories of human ambition, artistry, and the enduring allure of gold are universal. Even for our friends in America, who may see parallels with their own nation's quest for identity and currency, the saga of these coins will prove simply irresistible. Join me, Hadi Abdul, as we venture into the vaults of the past. We'll trace the evolution of these magnificent artifacts, from the early days of the East India Company's dominance to the final moments of British sovereignty. Each coin is a chapter in a much larger book, a tangible connection to the people who minted them, traded them, and treasured them. This is more than a history of numismatics. It is a story of how a subcontinent was transformed, told through the enduring gleam of gold. We will see how art and power became intertwined, how economies were shaped, and how the very identity of a nation was forged and reforged. Prepare to be captivated by the artistry, the politics, and the sheer human drama etched into these golden relics. We will examine the symbols, decipher the inscriptions, and understand the context in which they were created. This is a journey that spans centuries and continents, linking the fortunes of a small island nation with the destiny of a vast and ancient land. It is a story that reveals the profound impact of colonial rule and the resilient spirit of a people on the cusp of freedom. So, let us begin our exploration into the golden heart of an empire. Our story begins not with a crown, but with a company. The Honourable East India Company, a formidable trading entity that grew to wield military and administrative power over vast swathes of India. In this landscape of burgeoning influence, a standardized currency was essential for lubricating the gears of commerce and control, and so the mohur was reborn under a new master. Originally a coin of the great Mughal emperors, its name meaning seal or symbol, it was now adapted by the company. It was a strategic move, a co-opting of a familiar and respected form of currency to assert their own economic dominance. These early mohurs were a fascinating blend of cultures, sometimes bearing inscriptions in Persian script alongside symbols of British authority. These coins were not simply for buying and selling spices or textiles, they were instruments of power. The weight and purity of each mohur, meticulously controlled at the company's mints in Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras, sent a clear message. It was a declaration that a new order had arrived, one founded on precision, regularity, and the unwavering might of British commerce. For the local merchants and maharajas, accepting and trading in these mohurs was a tacit acknowledgement of the company's growing supremacy. Each transaction, each clink of gold against gold in the bustling bazaars, reinforced the economic web the company was weaving across the subcontinent, a web from which it would be difficult to escape. The design of the early company mohur tells a story in itself. Initially, they were struck in the name of the reigning Mughal emperor, a clever political maneuver to lend them legitimacy. But as the company's confidence grew, so did its audacity. The emperor's name was eventually replaced, first with simple, stark inscriptions, and then, most tellingly, with the company's own coat of arms, the lion and the crown. It was a gradual but deliberate transformation, the numismatic equivalent of a flag being planted in new territory. The gold mohur had become a powerful piece of propaganda, a silent but brilliant testament to a merchant company that was now behaving very much like an empire. The year 1857 marked a seismic shift. The Indian Rebellion led to the dissolution of the East India Company and the beginning of direct rule from London. India was now the jewel in the crown of the British Empire, and its empress was Queen Victoria. This new political reality demanded a new kind of currency, one that would leave no doubt as to who was in charge. The era of ambiguous company-issued coins was over. The mohur was to be remade, this time not with a coat of arms, but with the face of the monarch herself. The introduction of the Victoria Queen mohur in 1862 was a profound statement of sovereignty, a direct imposition of the royal image onto the daily lives of millions. The design was a masterpiece of imperial symbolism. On the obverse, a youthful, elegant portrait of Queen Victoria, crowned and facing left. This was not just a portrait, it was an icon. It projected an image of grace, stability, and benevolent authority across a land still reeling from conflict. The reverse, however, was equally significant. It featured intricate floral patterns, a design that was distinctly and beautifully Indian. This was a calculated choice, an attempt to blend British authority with local aesthetics, suggesting a rule that respected, even as it dominated, the culture of its subjects. Every detail from the Queen's title, Victoria Queen, to the coin's value was rendered with impeccable precision. To hold one of these mohurs was to hold a tangible piece of the British Raj. It circulated from the Khyber Pass to the southern tip of the subcontinent, a constant gleaming reminder of the Empress's distant yet omnipresent rule. For the British administrators, military officers, and their families in India, it was a piece of home, a symbol of their mission. For the Indian populace, it was the new face of power, a standardized unit of wealth that superseded the myriad coins of the princely state. The Victoria mohur became the definitive gold coin of its time, symbolizing an era of consolidation, railway construction, and the tightening grip of the world's largest empire. With the passing of the long-reigning Queen Victoria in 1901, the throne passed to her son, Edward VII. His reign, though short, was a time of great pageantry and imperial confidence, often called the Edwardian era. It was only natural, really, that the coinage of British India would change to reflect the new monarch. The plan was to issue a new series of gold mohurs bearing the portrait of the King Emperor. However, the story of the Edward VII gold mohur is not one of abundance, but of extreme rarity and intrigue. It's a coin that is known more for its absence than its presence, making it a legend among collectors. The mints in India prepared to strike these new coins. Dies were engraved with the uncrowned, right-facing bust of Edward VII, a stark and powerful image of the new ruler. A small number of proofs and pattern coins were produced, showcasing the intended design. However, a confluence of factors prevented a full-scale mintage for circulation. Economic conditions, debates over currency policy, and the king's relatively brief 9-year reign meant that the gold mohur was never officially issued for the public. The vast majority of people in India would never see or touch a gold coin bearing his likeness. This scarcity has transformed the Edward VII mohur into one of the most sought-after treasures of the British India series. The few examples that exist, mostly pattern pieces and the exceptionally rare 1910-15 rupees, which is functionally a mohur, are prized possessions in the world of numismatics. Their value lies not just in their gold content, but in their story. The story of a coin that almost was. They represent a brief, glittering moment in the history of the Raj, a numismatic ghost from the height of the British Empire. Each surviving specimen is a testament to an abandoned plan, a golden what-if that continues to fascinate and elude collectors to this day. As the 20th century dawned, the British Empire was a truly global power, and it possessed a currency to match: the gold sovereign. First minted in England in 1489, it had been revived in 1817 and had become the world's preeminent trade coin. Its weight and purity were trusted from London to Sydney, from Cape Town to Hong Kong. It was honestly inevitable that this symbol of Britain's economic might would make its presence felt more formally in India. Under the reign of George V, Edward's successor, the sovereign began to be struck not just in London, but at branch mints across the empire, including, for 1 year only, in India. In 1918, a momentous event occurred at the Bombay Mint. For the first and only time, British gold sovereigns were struck on Indian soil. These coins are identical in design to their London-minted counterparts, featuring the classic image of St. George slaying the dragon on the reverse and the bare-headed effigy of King George V on the obverse. However, a tiny detail sets them apart, a small I mint mark, signifying India. This single letter transformed an ordinary sovereign into a unique piece of Indian numismatic history, a direct link between the subcontinent's economy and the wider imperial system. The circulation of the sovereign in India, both the locally minted 1918 issue and those imported from elsewhere, highlights the interconnectedness of the empire's finances. This was a coin that could be used to pay a soldier in Delhi, purchase goods in Singapore, or be banked in London, all without needing to be exchanged. It was the ultimate expression of a globalized economy under British dominion. The George V sovereign, especially the rare Bombay minted variety, is therefore more than just an Indian coin. It is an imperial coin that tells a story of global trade, immense wealth, and the economic sinews that held the British Empire together. All empires, no matter how powerful, eventually face their twilight. For the British Raj, that moment came in 1947. After decades of struggle, protest, and negotiation, India was on the cusp of independence. In this historic, transformative year, the story of British India's gold coinage reaches its poignant conclusion. As the Union Jack was lowered for the last time, a final remarkable coin was conceived. This was not a coin of imperial authority, but one intended to mark the end of an era and the dawn of a new one. It stands as a powerful symbol of transition, a bridge between a colonial past and an independent future. Though not a widely circulated coin, the concept of a 1947 independence commemorative coin has become a legendary part of India's numismatic lore. Designs were proposed that moved away from the monarch's portrait, the ultimate symbol of British rule. Instead, they were to feature new, distinctly Indian iconography, the Ashoka lion capital, which would become the official emblem of modern India and maps of the newly independent nation. This was a deliberate and profound act of reclamation. The very object that had once borne the face of an empress would now bear the symbols of a sovereign republic. It was a declaration in gold that power had finally returned to the people of India. The legacy of these commemorative pieces, whether as patterns or as cherished concepts, is immense. They represent the final chapter in the long and complex history of British Indian coinage. They are the bookend to the East India Company's first mohurs, completing a cycle of conquest, rule, and eventual liberation. For modern India, these designs symbolize the nation's birth and the fulfillment of a long-held dream. They are a reminder that while the gold remains the same, the hands that mint it and the symbols it carries define its true meaning. This final coin is not just a collector's item, it is a piece of India's soul, forged in the fires of history at the very moment of its rebirth. Our journey through time has come to an end. We have held history in our hands, tracing the story of an empire through the gleam of its gold. From the mercantile ambition of the East India Company's mohur to the imperial grandeur of Queen Victoria's effigy, each coin has revealed a different facet of the British Raj. We saw the scarcity and allure of Edward VII's phantom coinage, the global reach of the George V sovereign, and finally the powerful symbolism of a nation reborn in the commemorative designs of 1947. These are not just artifacts for collectors, they are potent symbols of a shared and often turbulent past. The story of these coins is a universal one. It speaks of the human desire to create order, to project power, and to express identity through art and currency. The intricate designs, the changing portraits, and the subtle mint marks all tell a story of political shifts and cultural encounters. They are a testament to the craftsmen who engraved the dies, the officials who dictated their designs, and the millions of people for whom these coins were a part of daily life. They connect us directly to the great sweep of history, allowing us to feel its weight and appreciate its complexity. As we've seen, these objects are so much more than their metallic value. They are miniature monuments carrying the legacy of emperors and the dreams of new nations. They are silent storytellers waiting in vaults and collections to share their tales of a bygone era. These coins are more than just currency. They are golden witnesses to the rise and fall of empires. Which coin story fascinated you the most? Let us know in the comments.